All right, welcome back, everyone. This is what number episode, Julian?
Number 10. Welcome back, everybody, to 10 episodes in the books.
Wait, do you want to try doing like a? This will all be in the pod, but do you want to try doing like a regular intro? You know how people do like the welcome back with your hosts.
Okay, let me try first. Welcome back, everybody, to First Time Pictures, where we look at pictures for the first time. And on this week's episode, we are looking at the film Millennium Actress. What do you think about that one?
Okay. Let me try one, but I'm gonna try
Let me
one
hear yours.
where I mention the host. Okay.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to First Time Pictures. We are your hosts, Anthony Ruth and Julian Lizama. We got a special episode today. How's that? Is that good? You like the energy?
Podcast energy. You're bringing it. I hear
All right. Whoever votes,
it.
rate if you like the overly enthusiastic or the professional one from Julian.
So make sure to leave a comment down below. We will take all criticisms. I can work on my delivery if that was a problem. Just let me know. We take all feedback. All feedback's welcomed.
All right. Let's get into what we've been watching through the week. What have you been? I've actually been meaning to ask you. Do you read manga anymore? Have you started or continued any?
Any new mangas? I haven't read any in a while, so I'm saying no on that one. Even though
Uh,
I've been debating reading Invincible comic, but I
oh,
just
really? Like actually reading the whole comic?
yeah, but I don't know. Like I really like watching it, and I don't want to get into the same thing that's happened with like Jujutsu Kaisen or One Punch Man, where I read it and like, yeah, I get the story, but like I really just like watching it. So I don't want to ruin my watching experience by reading the whole comic and then just, waiting for the animation because I really like the animation, of Invincible. So I have been like debating with myself whether or not I want to like actually read it and just find out more of the story or just wait as it, comes out on the animated side. So I have been contemplating that, but
Would
otherwise,
it
no, I
change your
haven't.
mind at all if I told you that the comic book is actually a lot different than the show? Like
Yeah.
not a lot different, but have you seen that
Yeah,
there's like several differences?
I've heard some slight differences on the characters and maybe they change the race or
Plot
make this
points and some stuff.
character. Yeah, and so that's why I'm like I really like the the animated series so far, so I don't mind keeping it versus like, when we read Demon Slayer, like they pretty much,
Shot
scene
for
for
shot.
scene. Yeah. So, yeah, see even that point that you just brought up probably turned me away more from not wanting to read.
Oh, so probably like after you finish or after the animated series is over, you might be like, oh, okay, I'll go revisit this version of the story.
Yeah, maybe see some scenes, but I also am not the type to, once I read if I were to watch all of Demon Slayer, I probably wouldn't go back and reread it. It's like I got it
Fair.
over with. I'm done. So, other than watching Invincible though this week, um, haven't really done anything different. I'm still on Severance. I'm still on Invincible. I've been watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians with Kaylin. That's one of our shows that we binge weekly. Um, Next Level Chef is a really interesting reality TV cooking show with Gordon Ramsay that I think is really good. It's a cool concept where they have like three floors, and the top kitchen's the best, the middle kitchen is average, and then the bottom's like a horrible kitchen. And it's kind of like the movie The Platform.
Oh, I've
Have
seen
you?
that one before. Like the lower level is like the less supplies, the worse materials you get, or
Yes.
worse
So like
tools.
So in the movie, the levels where it's like 100 stories, and they put food at the top, and then it just keeps dropping, and people grab food, and then people at the
Yeah, and then if
bottom
you're
you
at the
get
bottom, you get the worst or the scraps, the scrap
yes.
ingredients.
So it's pretty cool because the top will get the steaks and everything, and the bottom will get like cow tongue, and so you have to try to create a dish and not get kicked out with like the most worst ingredients. So it's always funny, like, if someone misses like a really good ingredient and gets to the bottom floor, everyone's like, how the heck did this get here? And then they'll create a dish, and then you would always think, oh, you're at the top, you have the first pick, best ingredients, best utensils. You would always think they get the best dish at the end. But sometimes people at the bottom create something that's like super good versus the top will create something that's super bad. So it's, you never know what's going to happen. So that's a pretty fun show. And something I recommend most people do when watching these type of elimination reality TV shows is you watch maybe the first 2, 3 episodes where they establish some characters. And then whoever you're watching it, because I watch all these shows with Kaylin, we like to just bet. We'll be like, all right, these two are my characters. And so while you're watching, you're intrigued because you have two characters that are your characters throughout the whole show. And for the most part,
Oh,
me and Kaylin will always choose the finalists. I don't know how it happens, but our characters, no matter if it's Next Level Chef, Lego
you get the vibe.
Master, yeah, you'll get who knows their stuff, and they'll
Yeah.
usually make it to the finals. So that just makes it more. What's it when you're like into it more? More engaging when you're watching because
Yeah,
you
more
have like
engaged.
you have some stakes into it. So if anyone's watching some show where people get eliminated, you pick your two characters. We usually do one boy, one girl, or in this case on Next Level Chef, since there's 3 teams, Gordon Ramsay and then 2 other chefs, we pick one chef from each team. So it also levels it out. So highly
Oh,
recommend that for anybody.
that's kind of what
Um,
I did when I started the Great British Baking Show, but like on
oh
accident
yeah,
because I would see some people, I would just sympathize with them. I'm like, come on, bro, like pick it up. You're my guy. I need you to,
bro, you're better than
yeah,
this.
yeah, exactly. I need you to pick it up.
Yeah, so that just makes it fun. But yeah, I've been watching the same shows. Like I'm in a great time for my TV watching vibes because all my shows are back, weekly releases. They give me like 3 to 4 different shows to watch a week, so it kind of keeps me in my watching TV. So that's been really fun. Otherwise, yeah. Have you been watching anything new? I know you told me you started a new manga. What
Oh
was that about?
yeah, I've been reading this manga called Claymore, and it's
Claim
actually
War?
so good. Claymore, like a claymore.
Okay, Claymore.
Yeah, Claymore. And so it's pretty much a mix. Like the art really reminds me of that. It reminds me of that hand drawn, uh, very stylistic hand drawn mangas like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, uh, Berserk, or even Kingdom because it looks very hand drawn and they have a very specific style that uses a lot of grays and not like deep blacks that you can get from because you can really tell when some manga artists are drawing on like an iPad Pro, like they have the most perfect lines where it's not, you can tell there wasn't any real brush stroke used when creating that image. Like it's a little too good. And like it still
Yeah.
takes skill. Like if you handed me an iPad Pro, I would not be able to make their images. But uh, but there is a difference between like hand drawn with pencil and someone using an iPad Pro and like their inks and everything on there. And so it has this really really good art. But the story is basically if you took Attack on Titan and then mix it in with a little bit of Berserk and then a little bit of Demon Slayer, cause it's about like there's like a society of warriors, right? Like Demon Slayer that fight the demons that can only be killed when like their head is chopped off, and then there's like more conspiracy when it comes to uh the sources of everyone's powers and the creation and the start of it and the history of their continent, and it reminds me of almost like exactly like Attack on Titan. And so it has all those different elements and all every single warrior that fights the demons, they're all women. So that's like one thing that makes it a lot different than those other series is like it's exclusively women, and that's part of the plot. It's not just because somebody was like, I want to make an all women one, but it's part of the plot, like why they have to choose women warriors for
It goes
to
into the story or reasoning, like
yeah,
why.
yeah, exactly. There's a whole reason, and it even to the very end, it's like a part of the plot point, like when with the surrounding male characters. And what I also love about it, bro, solid 155 chapters, and the story's finished. Like it's no like, let's just keep going for 600. I'll figure something out. It's like there's a complete beginning, and there's a final villain, and they're not trying to stretch anything. It's just a very contained, very fast-paced story that finishes in 155 chapters. So, if anyone's into manga, I highly recommend it because it has beautiful art. The story is pretty amazing, and it is very unique.
In these like obscure random mangas, because I swear like Kingdom was one of those where I was like, I've never heard
Yeah.
anyone ever talk about this, and you're like, bro, this is the greatest manga ever. And then you send me a picture of this one. I'm like, where do you even find this type of manga? Or like, are you
I've
just
actually tried to figure
scrolling?
out I've tried to figure out different ways to find it. So sometimes when I used to have TikTok, I would see how I found Kingdom was I would see people's manga tier list, and a lot of people would rank Kingdom as like an A plus, and I'm like, I've seen this on like three or four different lists, and just because it's been on multiple lists, I got to check it out. And then once I did, I never stopped. But for Claymore on the Shonen Jump app, I started this one manga, and let me tell you the name of it. It was a very it was called like uh okay, I forgot the name, but uh after like 20 chapters, the last chapter they released at the very end, it said the end. And I was like, what the fuck? That wasn't an ending. What are you talking about? And it turns out that yeah, but no, they just stopped the manga. And I looked it up, and it turns out that when Shonen Jump's like, they basically look at the statistics and they're like, yeah, there's not a lot of people reading your manga, so sorry, but you're out. And they just cut it off. And it does. It's like very cutthroat because I was into it, but it's like if it's not doing numbers, they just straight up stop it. And so I was like, how many mangas actually go through that? And I went and I looked up like because you can see every manga listed on their app, and you can see how many chapters. And so I find some that only have like 20 to 30 chapters, and I'd Google it, and it would say like so and so manga canceled after 30 chapters, so and so manga canceled after 20 chapters. I'm like, oh, so I can kind of filter out the ones that were so popular that they were able to extend for an extended period of time. So when I saw Claymore on the list, I just see 155 chapters. Okay, and it's over. Bet that means it was a good enough story to make it past 20 chapters, and it's contained to where it ends after 155. I'm saving it, and I'll read the first couple, and if I'm interested, I'll keep going, and if I'm not, I'll just drop it. And so basically, I just saved every single manga that looked like it was able to make it past those 20 to 30 chapter mark and survive. And I just got a long list of ones to check out now.
Like you're reading one and then you're like maybe one or how many books do you get before you're like, yeah, this is trash? Or like do you realize it like have you read a lot where you're like, yeah, this is not a good one, and then you just stop reading it? Or for the most
There
part
ha-
you do your research and you're like, no, this is gonna
it's
be a
like a
good
mixed
one.
bag. It's like a mixed bag because there's been one where the start where it was incredible, like this one called Astro Royale. I really like it. Like the start was very fun, but after about 15, 20 chapters, I got disinterested. So some of them they'll reel me in real fast, but then they're not able to keep up that momentum. And some of them start slow. Like Claymore was just a little good in the first 5 chapters, but then with every chapter it got better. And so I continued reading that one. But some of them I drop like fast. Some of them I'll drop after their first strong 20 chapters because then they don't know what to do. And some of them are just so boring that I drop like probably after 5 chapters.
Yeah, because I feel like for me to even want to start a manga, I'd have to first. I probably wouldn't just start a random one. I'd have to hear like,
Really?
this is because like the mangas I have read are very particular. I've only read handful, right? Like I read
Yeah.
as much of One Punch Man. I wanted to finish Demon Slayer. I read Kingdom because you recommended it. I read Sakamoto Days. I read like Kaiju number 8. And I feel like the ones I start, it's like, oh, you told me about them, so I'm like, okay, I guess I'll read them.
Like they're
But
good, or they come with some they're recommended versus just
yeah,
you don't want to start a
yeah.
random one like because you're scared it might be bad or you might
Yeah,
waste your
but
time.
and like maybe I'm like getting it, like I'll read, because like I wouldn't know if after chapter one it's bad, because like you recommend Naruto to somebody, the first 10 episodes, 8 episodes are kind of boring, but you're like, no, trust me, and I don't want to be like that meme of like the guy mining and then he gives up, and if he would have kept
Oh yeah,
mining,
yeah, yeah.
he would
Like
have
you were
hit
so
gold.
close to the good stuff.
Yeah, so I probably would just end up reading as much as I can until I'm like, whatever, done. Like Kingdom, I binged a lot of Kingdom, and the reason I stopped was because you had uploaded them on a Google Drive for me to read them, and then I
Oh
think
yeah.
after a certain point, they didn't load anymore or something. I was like, okay, well, I'm just done. So I just dropped it because it was like out of my way to read it, but. But yeah, so that's where I'm just like, I don't know how to find the mangas worth reading, because I'd rather, if it's a manga that's currently going, I'd rather just go watch the show, like if they made it into the live action, or just like, I don't really want to read it. Like I think I'm not a manga reader, so I probably wouldn't even pick up
For
most
me,
mangas.
for me personally, reading manga has like 100% tied into my mental well-being. Because you know how I keep talking to you about staying off social media and how I feel a little bit more
Yeah,
foggy every time I have it. Well,
that's true.
I also found that every time I would have that foggy mind from being on social media, it would make it more difficult to read because I would be so impatient. I'd be like, I'm not reading that whole fucking bubble. Like that's some bullshit. I would
You're just
stop.
skimming.
Yeah, and even if it's a manga that I liked, I would just like skim the words, want to look at the pictures. I'm like, my mind is
Yeah,
fucking broken. Like I can't even sit
yeah,
and read this
yeah.
manga. And so I've once I got off of social media, I started forcing myself, and I found that with how much I'm reading correlates with how foggy or not foggy my mind is from social media. So like now, since I'm not that foggy, I can sit and I'm very patient with the words. Like I'm reading every bubble, every expression, and that correlates to like, oh, my mind feels very clear and patient and not anxious to like get the content. I'm more like, because it's always better to get the what's that word for it? Like the slow burn or the slow gratification versus like the fast gratification.
Like the
Yeah,
delayed gratification versus the
exactly. Versus the instant
instant, yeah,
gratification.
because you're like
I
you'll
feel
read
like
you'll read a whole thing and you're like, that was a good chapter, versus maybe just getting a
just
quick
skimming it
dopamine
and looking
hit,
at
and
the big panel and then okay, I got it. But
yeah,
like I really
yeah,
get like at the end of 5 chapters, I'll get the delayed gratification where it's like, man, that felt good to like put in the work of reading every bubble, every expression
yeah,
because it all culminated to the end of this like special story or whatever. And
yeah,
yeah,
like all the
so
details
I've been
come
really into it.
together. Like
Exactly.
if Yeah, I see. That's whenever I hear you say like, "Yeah, it makes me smarter or sharper." I'm like, ah, maybe I should read a manga, but that's where I'm like, I'll read just a regular book. Even that though, I'm not reading. So I feel
Awesome.
after this, I'm gonna get back into reading after
That's
this,
like the
because
next tier for me. I think I like the first tier is manga because I still want pictures, and then
yeah,
the next tier would be a pictureless book where I'm reading the
bro,
whole
like
thing.
I've been reading the Bible a lot, and it's just so funny because I'm reading it, and it feels like I'm reading some manga action scene, bro. Because like I'm reading like the what do they call it, the four gospels, right? And they're
Yeah,
going through Jesus' story, and you're like, dang, like Jesus is getting chased by these guys, and Jesus like stop, and then you're walking on water. You just like see this like action scene of how epic it probably was. So just reading that is like a little. it kind of helps me with reading the Bible because I'm picturing some epic ass fight scenes or like some epic characters. So it
Yeah,
kind
like Jesus standing on the water in the middle of a
yeah,
rainstorm, and all of them are, yeah, that like
yeah.
climactic stuff.
So that's funny. But I do want to get back into reading, and I feel like the more I talk to you about you saying reading this, and I also want to get off social media. I feel like it might be good. Like instead of if I have 10, 20 minutes to burn here, instead of hopping on TikTok or Instagram, maybe read a chapter of this manga because it's quick because you can have Shonen Jump on your phone and you don't have to carry a book with you.
Yeah, yeah. For anyone listening, I recommend doing like a little test on yourself and trying to read like a book. And if you get frustrated within the first like a couple sentences because you're bored, your mind's probably fucked up too. Like you're probably
you
not
got
used to that
the
delayed gratification.
you got that TikTok brain.
Yeah, exactly. Go do a little test, whoever's listening, and see if you could make it through a chapter without wanting to pull your hair out or something.
Yeah, and if you can't, that's a clear sign you need to delete some social media
Yeah,
off your
you got to
phone.
take a little detox. But after all that, let's get into it. The film that we came to review. This was my
Review.
favorite animated movie of all time, but this was your first time not just watching this movie, but a Satoshi Kon film, which he is a very renowned writer, director, animator in Japan. And so, this film, this is the synopsis. In this animated movie, filmmaker Genya Tachibana begins work on a documentary about famed Japanese actress Chiyoko Fujiwara. Now well into old age, Chiyoko has become reclusive and shy about any publicity, but she eventually warms up to Tachibana and starts to relate her life story. As the decades pass, Chiyoko is transformed from a teen with big dreams into a full blown celebrity, while her cinematic characters span various eras, from ancient Japan to the distant future. All right. So tell me, what's your one word, bro? What was your one word? What was your one word? Confused, flabbergasted? I know you said you had no idea what you were watching.
Bro, my one word would definitely have. Well, if I had to give you my one word directly after watching, would be like mixed bag,
Uh huh.
just because it was a lot, and I'm gonna
It
say
is a lot.
something that you're gonna be flabbergasted at. That
Okay.
I started watching it and I fell asleep. Right, so
No way.
I I
It
was
was like
watching it.
6 in the afternoon too.
Bro, I had just eaten canes. I was ready for
Oh
my
my
movie. I'm
gosh.
in bed and I'm watching it. I'm watching it, and then boom, I fall asleep. And then I wake up and it's still playing. I'm like, no, and I'm trying to force myself. I'm like, did I just fall asleep? And boom, fall back asleep. And I was like,
That's
no
crazy.
way, I just fell asleep. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna rewatch the whole thing because I want to grasp it all
Yeah,
together,
like
but.
keep the momentum going from scene to scene.
But it did take me two watches to watch this movie. And
Gotcha.
I mean, we can get right into the review or whatever, talk about the themes, but I was just so like, what is going on like, who am I following? What is going on? And like, like, what did this plot point set up for this next scene? I'm like, what is this? Is it the same plot point, like plot point from the previous scene? It was a lot of like, connect this dot to this dot, but then this dot goes to this dot. It's not like a straight path. It was like a lot of
Yeah.
jumping, and I was just so confused. So I think when my first time watching, I was like, what is going on? And I think I was a little uninterested. So when I was rewatching, I was like, I already had some knowledge. I'm like, okay, well, I know this is going to happen. So when I'm watching this, let me see how it kind of correlates to what I saw yesterday. So it kind of helped me the second time rewatching it.
For those who don't know, this film blends like it blends reality, her movies, and her memories all at the same time because the 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 documentary makers are interviewing her, but while she's talking, they're like the scene will have them there in the past with them, but while they're telling the story, but at the same time, the story she's telling is integrated into the movie that she was filming at that time. So it's like it can get super confusing because you're like, wait, is that the movie or is that reality
Exactly.
or is that the documentary or is that just for? But that's one thing that confused me as well. Like when I first watched it, where I'm like, I get the concept, but I'm like, okay, wait a second, was that scene real? Or like there were some scenes where I'm like questioning whether it was part of reality or the
Like
documentary.
Inception almost. It was like a
Yeah,
weird, like, this ties in with that, but not with this, but then this does tie in with that. And a lot of, because, like, yeah, it was like the beginning of the movie, it starts, they're giving her just normal backstory of her as a child. And then they
yeah,
just, like, cut, boom, into an action scene. And then you're like, wait, what the hell? What's going on here? Or, yeah, like the beginning scene, right? She bumps into this guy, and then the guys pop up, right? The interviews are in that same scene, and it's like, oh, okay,
yeah,
I understood that. Like, okay, she's telling a story maybe so good that the guys feel like they're physically there with her, right?
yeah.
Like
They're
like
they're they're visually watching the story she's telling.
Yeah, so they feel like they're, and then it would cut to another scene where it was like she's dealing with that same problem of that guy, but then boom, she's in a movie dealing with that same problem of the guy, and so just a lot of weird fuckery going on that I was like, what is going on here? And I read that sonat or like article, after I read it, and I was like, was
Yeah,
this the whole point of the movie? Like this one quote of like, because the whole movie she's chasing this guy, right? And she has this
yeah,
key, and she's looking for this guy, and then you sent me that thing, and I was like, the whole movie's about the the pursuit, not the destination. And
yeah. It's about
I
the
was like, is that?
journey.
I was like, okay, is that the whole movie? Like, what about the plot of the movie? Like, does the plot of the movie not matter? Like, is this one of those movies where the theme is so powerful that you don't have to care about the actual plot of the movie? So that's where I was having a weird disconnect of like, okay, I get the theme, but the plot is like I'm still watching a plot. Like, is
Well, the
that one of
plot,
these?
I think you gotta not think about it as in it's a direct problem. Like, oh, we need to stop this person, and are we gonna stop them or not? I think it's more of like a little story of someone's life, and then it's like if you were to look at that person's life, what is the one takeaway, or like what's the one lesson you would have learned from their story, and uh, I remember whenever at the very end of the movie, because you do think, oh, what is gonna happen when she finds the key? I wonder what that key is, because that's like setting up this whole plot point of it's like unlocks something special. And then when they pull the rug out from under you, and that cop confesses that he
Yeah, yeah.
he killed her, or he killed the guy, I was like, did at first my gut reaction was like, we just spent all that time trying to find this man? Like that is the most gut wrenching news or like way to end that story. Like you're not gonna even find out what it was, but then I felt like it all came together at the end when it does tell how it's like it wasn't the fact if she's gonna find the key or not. It's more like sometimes the fact that she had something to chase in the first place is sometimes to appreciate. Like you got to appreciate that aspect of your life or someone else's life, because some people don't even have anything to look forward to. Just like I think in the article it explained that when she said, "Oh look, I love a full moon," and then the guy said, "Well, it's not full moon yet. It's going to be a full moon tomorrow." But that's the way I like it, because it means that there's something to look forward to tomorrow. Like there's still a reason to keep moving forward.
Got up early too, so maybe that was in line with the whole theme of
Exactly. I
like,
think like the whole thing, since the beginning, it was like setting that life lesson
yeah,
into
because I was
motion.
also a little confused. 'Cause I was like, okay, does she really want to be an actress or not? Like, is she just trying to be?
She did not. She only did it for to try and get the guy's attention.
So she became a massive artist, and basically that was her purpose, to become a massive hit so that maybe he would know where she is the whole time.
Exactly. Or know that she is still out there, or possibly get her name out there so she can find him some way.
Okay, so she didn't really care about being an actress. So she got,
Not at all.
bro, she got manipulated, bro. What? She got tricked, dude. She didn't even want that out
Yeah,
of her own life. She did that for a
she
man
did.
that was dead. Like, what?
But
See that
if you
that's
think
even
if you think about it
sadder.
though, it is because it showed that actually when I think when he killed her, or the cop killed the man, it was shortly after they had their encounter. So it wasn't like, oh, he probably saw a couple of her movies. I think he died before she even became a movie actress. So it's almost like the entire time she was doing all of that was for no reason. But that kind of
That's
brings the question. It's
crazy.
like, is that good or bad? Because if you think that's super bittersweet. Because if you think about it, it's like
Yeah.
if she would have known that, she never would have created all these amazing works of arts that didn't just uh, express her life and her desires, but it also affected people like the documentary worker who was such a big fan of her. So it's like sometimes it's you have or I think the point of removing that from the story was to tell the audience, like, listen, it's not about finding it or not, because you could have had it end, but I think he wanted to make a very specific point that it's like it's not about finding the key, or sometimes that's specifically not what's special. It's like the fact that you are making an effort to find something important to you, because she even says at the end, what I really love is the pursuit of him. And without the pursuit of him, she wouldn't have gone as far as she went in her life and in her career, like regardless if she loved it or not.
That's like the typical, like, I'm only doing this for my parents or whatever, and then you become a
Uh-huh.
doctor, and then maybe your parents die, and then, well, now I'm a doctor. I didn't really care to be a
Yeah, like who am I doing this
doctor.
for?
Yeah. And so,
I
like,
think
bro,
that's oh, go ahead.
like, okay, I was just gonna ask. So you said this is like one of your favorite movies because of
This is
this
my
over,
favorite animated movie of all time.
because of that theme,
I think
or
because of everything. Like if you look at
okay,
from top to bottom, every little aspect you can grade like an animated film on, I think the movie is a 10 out of 10 in every aspect. The music, the animation, like we haven't talked about the animation yet. Like how almost like every proportion of every character, every set design, plane, everything is almost photorealistic just without the detail. But like the shape and like the way someone's chin looks, like their designs are all like you can imagine them being real people in real life. Like none of those proportions are something that would only exist in an anime, like pretty much every character look like someone you can find in those time periods or in Japan. Like if there's someone with a big nose, there's not someone with a gigantic nose to where they're a caricature. Like it's just some of the most proportionate art I've seen. And I think all his films are like that.
that animation was very crisp and clean. Like, it
Yeah.
looked. When we started watching it, Kaylin goes, "This looks like King of the Hill," and it was
King
like
of
the
the
beginning.
Hill. What? King of
Just
the Hill.
because it was like that, like, 1990s, early 2000s, like color, and I was like, I mean, I can kind of
Oh,
see
okay.
it, like the way, but then,
Like maybe
like,
the
so,
filter, I guess.
yeah,
Like
the
the way
filter.
it's
But then,
filmed.
she had the scene where she was standing like in the snow and her hair is like blowing in the wind when she's
Yeah, you
twirling,
see
like
every strand.
those look clean, right? And are these like hand drawn? Do you know? Like
Yeah, yeah.
some
This film's completely hand drawn.
like really every single scene hand drawn.
Yep, every single scene, every little fire,
That's
wood.
crazy.
Yeah, like the amount of detail to be hand drawing every frame like that. Like besides
Do you,
Studio Ghibli, they don't make they don't animate stuff like that anymore.
Do you think that takes longer than like a claymation type of film? Because,
Ooh,
you
that's a
know,
good question.
because claymation, right? It's you move a little bit, but you can take a quick picture, but you just got to move it a little bit versus you have to draw that whole scene every
Again,
frame. Like that's
yeah, every frame,
crazy. Like
and then you have
that's a lot
to.
of
That's a good question. I think it would just come down to the claymation, like how detailed I guess the actual characters are. Because like if it's just a guy with a t-shirt and shoes, you don't really have to move much. But if it's like a complicated character with 100 different moving parts, then that's when it probably takes more time because you have to consider way more movements.
what
Like
does
I
take
guess
longer because
Kubo.
like that what's the Christmas one with the guy Nightmare
What's a
Before
name?
Christmas?
Oh, uh
Like
huh.
that's a claymation.
Yeah.
And I would just wonder if that, because that had a lot of different things in there. And Jack has facial expressions, he's moving and everything. And
Yeah,
then
like
versus like
unique
a,
designs and
yeah.
stuff.
And then a film like this, though, you have some crazy sets, like the set where they were running, the war scene, and they shot all those arrows at the guy, and it
Oh
was like
yeah, and
fire,
then you have
like
to animate
draw
every individual
every
arrow, all that
arrow.
stuff.
Yeah, like that. I feel like just one scene probably takes days at least like that. So, I mean, I guess
I
if you had a
know.
whole
And
studio,
one thing I admire about that too is how consistent it is. Because from start to finish, there's not a single scene that looks like they spent less time on that one than another. Like every era they go to, every time period, it's like just as much detail, just as much fluid movement. And that's what I one thing I wanted to ask you. Did you notice how kind of photorealistic the movement, like the actual movement of the characters or the animation was in this film?
they did look real. I thought, how they do like animation sometimes where it's like they actually put a real person and then like draw
Oh,
over
like
it.
they trace the like a real
Yeah.
footage and then replicate it.
Yeah, and I was like, some of like the movements, where they're just like she's running in the snow, gets bumped, throws down, like the way they even just fall sometimes. I was like, what the heck? Like
Yeah.
it
And
seems
I
like
know what scene you're
very
talking about
crisp.
because when she's like running on the side of the train, you can tell
Yeah,
there's like a type of lens where like the snow moves in a certain way with
yeah,
their speed. I'm like, I wonder how animators try to like replicate that because
I
I
know.
noticed in some scenes that they follow like I don't know if it's physics or because like you know how when you film something from far away, it may be moving fast, but because you're filming it from far away, it looks slow, like going from point to point. When there's this one scene when they're running across the bridge and they're moving in that exact same speed as if the camera was placed like 300 feet away, so they look slower and they move across the screen slower than they would like if you were closer and creating that type of like emulating that in the animation, like emulating a real shot, like a real camera placement and distance, I would just wonder what goes into that. Like, do they have to do what you said where they trace it, or are they just like a master at knowing how that looks?
Because you have to really understand like body, was it anomaly, body
Yeah.
automology, like I
Anatomy.
yeah, like really good to like even know, okay, at this distance he'll look like this, and this shot should be like this because we're standing right here is where we're shooting. And
Uh-huh.
like, did they just look at maybe other films and saw, okay, this scene, I want to use this scene here, so I know if we're gonna draw it at this proportion, that we gotta draw it, at that same proportion how it was shot in the film. Like what research went into making a certain scene where it felt realistic, because at least I don't think, unless they're like super godly drawers, that they just like sat down and like, okay, I know we're standing about 200 feet, yeah, they should be doing this movement. Like it's
Yeah.
probably some
There
deep
is
research went into it.
there is an element of that because I remember uh, the guy who is most famous for doing Studio Ghibli, I think his name is Miyazaki. I forgot his name, like Hayao Miyazaki. Um, when he was, he had a couple animators under him, and his attention to detail. Like if you watch any of his movies, you can tell he's just flexing. Like, yeah, I know how water looks when it runs down a cheek, and I could replicate that in my animation. Because he'll spend time showing like the most mundane things. Like, oh, this is how paper looks when it flies in the wind and then lands in the grass. And I'm like, you can kind of get the vibe that he's just flexing. Like, yeah, I pay this much attention, or this much attention to those details. And I saw this behind the scenes. He had a couple animators under him, and he looked at this photo of this storyboard this animator was doing, and it was a photo of this man sitting in a chair eating breakfast. And immediately when he looked at the photo, he noticed all the inaccuracies in the way the person was sitting. So he's like, and so he told the animator, he goes, okay, look, right now, sit and act like you're doing this. And the animator sits, and then he's like, look at your neck. Look at the way your shoulders are. And then look at your drawing. Your shoulders don't do that. Your elbows aren't placed here. And he's like, your neck doesn't lean in this way. And he's like, that's not how people sit. And I noticed that I think Satoshi Kon and Hayao Miyazaki, what separates them from like other animators is that like superhuman attention to detail, where they're like, I know how the human looks when they're hunched over looking at a computer screen, or like, I don't know, just those tiny little details that most people can't remember or get right every time. Because I've tried to draw before too, and I'm thinking, I know how this looks, but why can't I translate it onto the fucking paper? Like, it never looks how I'm picturing it.
It's like the small details too, which like you get so many small details that they make a big picture versus like, maybe some animators are like, I don't care how paper flies, I'm just gonna make it
Yeah,
fly. Versus
like it's
he's
not
like,
that
no,
important.
I'm gonna make sure that this part of the paper flips over itself this way while flying, and it has paper doesn't flip crazy like this. It has like a movement to it, so it's like random little details that yeah, and like I don't know, maybe I feel like, and then that's also another part. Do those little details really matter? Do you feel like does it so much take away?
I think in the grand scheme it does, because if I saw, like, I'll be honest, if I saw that guy sitting in the chair the way the animator drew him, I would have never been like, that's unrealistic. My neck never bends like that. Like, I would have never known in a million
Julian,
years. Yeah, yeah, actually, uh, he is not anatomically correct. I would have never known. But I think if you have a director overseeing every little detail, I think in the final result you see it where you're just like, why does the vibe of every little movement feel so different than like, I don't know, Sakamoto days or other animations? Not saying that those need to look realistic, but there is a difference between, emulating real life and kind of just doing a wacky story. Like it takes a different level.
like the theme is kind of a personable, more real theme that like maybe more humans could relate to. And so if you see also someone who looks more like a human and goes through it, probably
Mm,
hits deeper because you're like, well, I felt that versus like, you watch a real life show, sometimes those themes could probably empathize a little more with you. Like if you see a kid die in like a doctor's show, you'll probably be more sad than maybe you see a kid die in an animated show. Like maybe it doesn't
that's very
translate.
true, especially because like the plot points and themes in this movie are more
Yeah.
serious. Like they're not meant to be like like a shonen anime where. But one thing I wanted to ask you too was, did you notice all the different influences and how it was kind of taken from real media from other stuff? Like even from Naruto, bro. You saw them doing the
I
log,
was gonna say
the
that, bro. I was
log
gonna say that they
substitution.
had even the same. I swear they had the same sound. The like the like when the
Yeah.
when the log came and it disappeared. I was like, bro, I'm watching a Naruto ninja scene when they're in the forest fighting ninjas. She's like fighting all these guys and they're just transported. I was like, dude, this is a Naruto scene right here. I'm watching Naruto. I saw they had like Godzilla ripoff or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I mean, those were probably the two. I don't know about all the other movies she was in. But yeah, I saw that they brought some classics to it. I don't know if that was a Naruto reference, but if it was, like, that's super badass.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if like kind of where Naruto got that from because I think it's been used multiple times in Japanese media to where it's maybe something from that time period. Like I'd love to find out what was the original like ninja movie that because this movie is
Get
considered
that?
also yeah, cuz this movie is considered a love letter uh to the history of Japanese cinema. So that's kind of one reason they wanted to go through all the different eras because it wanted to like show an appreciation of like, oh, I want to do this scene from the period of samurai, and then this scene from when cinema was into Godzilla, or this one when our movies were um, heavily ninja because different cultures have those different eras in their cinema where there's a period in America like in the 60s and 50s where 90% of the movies were westerns, like a western movie was coming out every single day, a new one, and it was just what people wanted. And that's one thing I really liked was I think it used that influence on the story really well because then it made every scene kind of exciting. Like this time we're doing a princess in this era where she's being overrun by bandits, and it just allowed for so many different creative choices throughout the story.
I bet if you were into like Japanese film at that
Uh
time,
huh.
or like if you knew it, you're probably like, oh, this is from this type of movie. Like you probably were watching it. Like if you were like a film director or something, you probably really like those
Have a
scenes of
huge
like,
appreciation
yeah, it's like
for those
it's kind of
different
like
eras.
it's like the Timmy Turner when they're surfing channels. You know, they go through different channels and like you'll see something you recognize. You're like, oh, this is Dragon Ball Z. Oh, this
Oh
is the
yeah,
Peanut
yeah.
Show. Like it's just like you're scrolling through and you can have appreciation. You're like, oh my god, they did this. Like, and it was probably really cool for those type of people.
Yeah.
Cause like yeah, I didn't really
Like little
know.
shout outs to those eras.
Yeah, because like I didn't really know like the king scene, you know, where they're getting overran by the bandits. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, this is the XYZ scene. But you know, when they had the ninja scene, I was like, yo, this is Naruto. Or they had the Godzilla poster. I was like, yo, this
Yeah.
Godzilla. Like this makes sense that she's a big actress.
Godzilla era.
She would probably be in Godzilla because she's one of the biggest actress.
Yeah, if you're into Japanese culture, I bet you would more appreciate those scenes because you know specifics like, oh, this is this era of Japanese cinema, etc.
Yeah, or like they shouted out my movie King of this or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
something that I thought I don't know if I was looking in too deep, but on the same theme of like, uh, you're going after a goal or something, the pursuit, like
Uh-huh.
the what's his name, the documentary guy, he was kind of on his own pursuit too. And something when I was writing my notes, I kind of tied
Oh,
two things together. I was like, oh, maybe this is also a theme. Like he really liked this actress, right? Like he was kind not obsessed with her,
yeah.
but like maybe he just really liked her or
He
something.
was a
And
fanboy.
yeah, he's a fanboy. Maybe his life thing was like, oh, I'm gonna meet her and I'm gonna get to talk to her and whatever. And he was on that journey as well, right? Like he was in the movie industry. He became maybe a top
Yeah.
director. But then when he finally gets his goal, she dies. You know. So then like I'm
Uh-huh.
wondering if that's also a thing. Like sometimes when you reach your goal, it might not be what it was originally
What you thought
intent.
it
Yeah.
was.
So like in her case, right, she was after this goal, and hers didn't really come to nothing, but it doesn't take away from whatever she accomplished. But for him, it was kind of like he came up with this big thing, maybe his whole life revolved around it, and then boom, she dies, and I was like, damn, that's also kind of that also kind of sucks because his
Yeah.
his major goal just she dies at. I mean, right? She dies at the end apparently.
I guess she also did have an influence on his whole career though, because then his interests and the things around him influenced like his whole life and like the career he took. Like he was still in like I guess film and television since she like that was his passion, you know? Like he chased her or like her career and her I guess did he want to be noticed by her or was he just working?
I want to give her the key back. Maybe that was.
Oh yeah, yeah, that too.
But one scene also that I was kind of like, this is also kind of a real life dilemma is like she was overly obsessed with finding the man and the key that it, even the scene when she was
Oh,
talking to her mom was like, you need to give up on this dream and, go have
yeah.
kids. And it's kind of like real life when, some people have these dreams and they're set on them and the people around them are like, you need to stop. And, you know, sometimes people maybe care or don't care about you so much that they'll take matters into their own hands, just like the guy who hid her
The
key,
husband, yeah,
right?
who
Like
took the key. I
he
thought that was so fucked up.
that was a pretty messed up scene. When I saw it fall, I was like, damn, he was here the whole time. And I was like, at the end, I was
Yeah.
also thinking, I was like, well, sometimes maybe if you care about someone so much, you don't want them to throw their life away for something
Yeah.
that you intervene to the point of, you hurt them, but it's for the greater good because, now you can move on with your life. And like she said, she did move on and she forgot about the key completely until she found it and she was able to move on from her life and so that's also something that sometimes people deal with where, you might have a dream, right? Maybe you're 5'5" and your dream is to be in the NBA and, you can commit to that dream forever. It's just like sometimes, you need that somebody to be like, yo, that ain't gonna happen, buddy. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
at
That
least
is
statistically
that is
speaking.
an extremely conflicting like topic as well because then you have
Yeah.
to ask the question like if she gave it up and was like, "You know what? I'm going to give it up and live my life." Do you think that would have turned into a regret where at the end of her life she's like, "I went the easy route, you know? Like why did I give up so easily? Do I regret that?" Like cuz then you could regret your entire life. But if you think about it, since she lived and pursued him all the way to the end and she kind of got an answer like it's not going to happen or the man was dead, then she knows for sure like not only for her own sake like I did everything I could and I did it my way, but I also have an answer like I wasn't going to find him. And that is kind of a some sort of peace to take with you because if she would have lived her life the normal way and did what everyone else was doing, then maybe she would have never made the movies. And she would have always asked herself till the day she died, like, was that man waiting for me, or did I possibly turn down something that could have gone somewhere?
So I was confused too about the man's after. I was like, does this man even like love her? Like, is this like really her Prince Charming? And that's where I was also like, okay, girl, you're tripping, dude. Like, he doesn't,
Sometimes there's love at first sight. There's love at first sight.
dude, bro. That man's I don't even know. Why was he on the run? Was he a thief, bro? Why you marrying a thief,
I
dude?
think I think he was a political activist, and the government was trying to get him. You know, it was like like they were under some sort of revolt, or there was a war going on, and he was not on a side that the government took lightly to, and they ended up killing him.
When she's in the rocket ship and then she does say the line, "What I really love is the pursuit of
The
him."
pursuit of him.
Like that was and it ends right there, and I was like, damn. I was like, this whole time she was chasing after this guy, and she never got him, but at least her whole life was filled with a purpose that
Yeah,
got
like
her.
zero regret. Like she knows.
Yeah, it got her up out of bed every day, took her forward, and even though she was uncertain of what maybe the outcome was, she still did everything in her power to achieve her goal, which is like a pretty, at least for me, that's something that is a good reminder because at least personally, like I have a lot of goals, And sometimes it's easy to be like, I don't know, like, today maybe I don't want to wake up to go to the gym. I'm gonna cheat meal here. I'm not gonna budget here, and it's easy to cut these corners and get that instant whatever versus if you play the long game, you sacrifice daily, you'll be happy that you're on the pursuit for, being healthy and all these things. And it's just a good reminder for everybody who's like achieving their goals or whatever, because she didn't know if she was gonna get it or not, but she still tried every day. And that's kind of all you can
Yep.
ask of yourself. Like, am I really going to get this goal? I don't know, but I'm going to try my hardest day in and day out to achieve my goals, and that's like all you can really ask for yourself to, continue on, because you're never sure if you're going to get it or not, but at the end of the day you have to just keep trying. So it's a pretty good
Exactly.
message movie to give and watch if you're like sometimes feeling.
I think some people need to be reminded of that because it's like even if you set an unrealistic goal, it's you if you don't go for it, you either like you don't realize the goals that you'll accomplish just on the way of like trying. Like if I'm trying to get to the
Yeah.
NBA and it's impossible, if I just tried and I only made it to college, that's further than I ever would have gone if I didn't try at all. So it's like you don't you shouldn't just set a goal for the sake of accomplishing that one goal, but in the pursuit of it, I think people forget that they could accomplish like a lot of great things regardless if they cuz like let's take this podcast for
I was
example,
just about to
like
say that.
if we if, if we don't blow up, at the end of the day, I think you and I would be proud like, man, we made it to 300 episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if we would have stopped at the beginning, I much would have rather said we made 300 episodes and didn't make it versus we never even tried. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a lot more important than ever making it.
I was just about to bring up a podcast. Like, if our goal is, I feel like our goal would be like we'd want to make, us watching content that we love and being able to talk about it and bring other people's discussions in. Like, I feel like that would be an ultimate goal and be able to eventually, hopefully, live off of doing things that we love. We love watching TV. We love talking about it. Like, ultimately, if that happens, that'd be awesome. But all the million other achievements we'll make along the way, like I think you and I just talking more, weekly about, we already talked, pretty much weekly, but now we're like, hey, we have something to talk about. Let's we're working on our movie critic analysis, whatever, brain, and how we
Yeah.
watch movies, how we talk about it. We're working on getting our thoughts out clear. We're working on friendship. We're working on how to learn doing social media. We're learning so many other things along the
Learning about
way.
different cultures through the movies and all that.
Yeah, we're becoming diverse people along the way of this massive goal.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, you and I don't know what's going to happen, but, we're willing to along the way, sacrifice some, a couple hours of our week to watch a movie, talk about it, edit, post, whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're still like, you know what? We're on this pursuit, man. It's the love of the pursuit that we're after. So
Exactly.
that's
Well said. Very well said.
I think we've reached the end of our review. You have any last final thoughts?
10 out of 10. I mean, we don't. I don't even need to
Oh,
go into
how
explanation.
many
I think you knew before,
how many keys are you giving this?
bro. I'm unlocking every single door. I'm unlocking all 10
Bro
doors,
has
and this
10
is
keys.
it is my favorite animated movie of all time. I just feel like the message itself uh, really hits me. I really get it, and I love the way they tell it. The music, I just think is so inventive and creative, and I gladly watch it again, even after watching it multiple times.
That's a solid rating.
What about you? How many keys? How
I,
many keys for you?
I think I'm unlocking 9 doors out of 10. I think my rating went up.
Really?
I think my rating went up during our conversation because I was gonna originally give it like
Uh huh.
8.2. But I
Uh huh.
think, right now, just going on that spiel of like going on a pursuit and how like I can appreciate someone going on a pursuit for their dreams, for their goals, no matter how absurd or ludicrous. lucrative it is, like just the fact that you're willing to, go out of your way to pursue something that maybe some people call you crazy, some people say you're wasting your time, like the fact that
Yeah,
you're
the haters are trying to stop you.
the haters gonna hate.
Your own mother.
Yeah, your own mother, yes, bro. So like even, just going off of that, like I think yeah, this movie, if you can understand that concept at the end, I think the movie has done great things for you. And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe my first time watching it, maybe I didn't really get that concept, and then I read what you gave me, and then I put kind of some things together, and then the overall, and I put aside the plot,
You had time to
whatever.
digest it.
Yeah, like I'll put aside. I'm like, okay, I'm basing this movie on the message and how it's trying to tell just this one message. And like you said, most movies don't have to be there's a bad guy in Gotham. How are we stopping him? Right? Like it could be
Yeah.
and that's something I'm also learning of watching movies, that they can just be a theme rather than solve a problem like that, which is also kind of different, a different lens to watch a movie from, because most movies I am basing it, okay, they have a problem, how are they solving it, and that's kind of it. But even watching a show like
Yeah,
Attack
like
on
what's the plot?
yeah, like watching a show on Attack on Titan, yeah, I have a plot, but they still have like this overall like theme of like, war and how people get hurt and like different things where it's like
Oh,
it's a step out of the plot that covers the story, which makes the story better. So that's why I think I
it does.
bumped it up to a 9, just by the theme and how hard I can relate to like trying to achieve certain goals in life that people might not be too fond of, or they seem lucrative, they
Yeah,
seem
or it might
crazy.
not even be possible, but trying
Yeah, and try, because
in the
most
end.
people don't try. And like, this is for whoever is listening, like, whatever you have in life, as long as you're trying, you're probably beating out a big majority of people, because most people don't try, right? Most people just get by and don't want to take risks. They want to take the easy way. But if you can just dedicate yourself to like doing the hard things and the path of least traveled, like you'll get a satisfying ending. Even if you don't achieve what you set out, you'll make a million other achievements along the way. So I give this movie nine
Amen.
keys.
Amen.
So preach, 9 keys out of 10.
Preach.
I think it was a really good movie, and I'm glad I watched different culture, right? Religion, right?
Yep. Yep.
Culture movie, because um, don't really watch too many other. I'm more of an American guy, American born and raised. So
America.
I stick to my American films. This is what our third or second Japanese movie. Because we watched Godzilla.
Yeah,
Sec
yeah. I think second
this
Japanese or third Asian
Yeah.
film.
So I think it was a good watch. It's different. I feel like I haven't seen too many like even Studio Ghibli movies like this type of
Oh yeah,
like animation
animation.
style. So it was cool. Like you watch
Yeah.
something different. It's not like your typical,
This is like
animation.
high class animation. I think animes are kind of like middle class, where they're still appreciated and can still bring the best, but this feels like high class anime.
Yeah, it's like the Ferrari of animation. It's like the tip cream of the crop. Like this is as peak as it
Yeah,
really gets out here. And so
it's like the wagyu. Like a steak is still good, but this is like the wagyu of
yeah,
anime.
so it was interesting watching it. So glad we
Do
checked it
you
off.
have a movie for us? Because if you don't, either for this one or the next, I got one that I know is right up your alley. So if you got a movie, that's fine. But I'm letting you know too for next episode. I got a movie that's curated to your interests.
I do have one actually, and I wanna stick. I think we've had some separation now from superheroes, so I think we're gonna
Okay.
step back into some superhero movies.
I swear
Uh,
to God, if you're picking Morbius.
so it's Morbin time, baby. Uh, no, so this was actually one of my. This was probably my first superhero movie I've ever seen. On top, even before Iron Man, all of this, I feel like this had to have been my first one, to the point where I didn't even realize it was part of the. I didn't even know he was a Marvel character. So, it's a pretty
No way.
it's a
Yes.
pretty
Let's
cool movie
go.
that I probably have seen like 5, 10 times, but I haven't seen in years. So it's still gonna be kind of a fresh watch for me. And I know you haven't seen it, so we're gonna be watching
I have not.
Ghost Rider 2009, I think. So so yeah,
Let's go. I'm excited about that one.
I've been trying to recommend that one for a minute, but we had just watched what's it called? Scarlet, or I forgot that movie. Madam Web. Uh
Oh, Madam Web.
yeah, so I was like, okay, let's get some distance from it. And 2007 is when Ghost Rider came out. So the 2007
Okay.
Ghost Rider movie,
That's crazy. That was a year before The Dark Knight.
I love this movie so much. As a kid, he was probably my favorite superhero for a while until I found out about the Avengers and all of them. Like, I didn't even know Marvel was a thing when I watched this movie.
This was your introduction.
This was probably my first introduction to any. I didn't even know he was a superhero. I just thought he was just. I just thought it was a movie.
Just
Like
a cool movie.
yeah, like I didn't even put two and two together until years later. I was like, what? Ghost Rider is part of the Marvel? I didn't know that. So I'm interested to see what you had to say about this one, because I know you haven't seen it. And it has Nicolas Cage, Eva Longoria, Eva Mendes, Sam Elliott. So it has a pretty good cast. So
Sam Elliott. I love a Sam Elliott.
yeah,
Any
man.
movie Sam Elliott's in, I like.
I'm a Western guy, got a mustache. So yeah, next week's episode we will be reviewing the Ghost Rider movie.
Ghost Rider.
Slow ride, take it easy.
Ghost Rider.
All right, so everybody listening, this was episode number 10. We've officially this time made it to episode 10. So this is one of our pursuits, guys. Episode 10. We probably have so many more, but we're on the pursuit to starting this, and this is episode 10. So shout out to us. And shout out to anyone listening, bro. Whoever listened to this, type.
It's a checkpoint.
Type.
We're saving here.
Type keys under our most recent Instagram post, so we know you made it this far, and we'll give you a special shout out in next week's episode.
Yeah.
So shout out everyone who's made it through these many episodes. Let us know also whose intro you like, and we'll see if we can incorporate it into some of our next episodes.
Yeah. Also, feel free to comment any movies you would like to hear us talk about, and we would gladly consider it, because if there's something our audience wants to hear, we have no problem, pausing our own list for one episode to give the people what they want.
Yeah, and we have been doing a lot of first time pictures. We're in talks right now with maybe some new series, maybe some revisit series, some throwback series, or something
Some
like
second time
second time watches.
second time pictures.
Yep. So, yeah, feel free to comment some movies and we'll check them out. See if we'll take a
Yeah.
couple looks at them. But yeah, shout out to everyone. We'll
Thank
see you
you
guys
guys.
in next week's episode. Peace.
Peace.